Hello, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome. Welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness in the highest levels of love light. I don't plan on this being a very long video. I haven't done a video really in a while. I mean, I did a light language video recently, but I ran out of room on my phone, so it was only about 5 minutes long. And I felt a little inspired to get on today, and the reason is I do feel like there's been a huge shift for many of us. I'm going to tell a little story about a client of mine, and I guess this is just going to be primarily an energy update. From my perspective and my own journey, because that's all I can offer when I do these videos. It's only about what I see based on my own reality, based on my own life choices and my own life perspectives, right? And essentially this is something that's really key for all of us. I feel like many of us are shifting perspectives right now. And I've been in this shift, well, for years, my whole life really, but the last month, maybe especially the last 3 weeks, have been very radical from one perspective for myself. And it's difficult to put into words, which is why I haven't been doing as many videos. I've done a few, still waking up right now, but all of these stories that I've told myself or that other people have told me that I've bought into or believed in have just kind of fallen off to the wayside for me right now. The way that I'm speaking has changed. The way that I interact with source or spirit, my spirit guides, whatever labels we want to give, the energy that moves in all things has shifted. And basically it felt like, and it still feels that way a bit, as if everything has been put on hold. Everything was put on hold, like, yet at the same time, other gifts were coming through. And so it was almost like, can you let go? How much can you let go of about what you thought you knew? How much can you let go of about what you thought you were doing? Your gifts, your abilities, your accessing the superconscious or subconscious. And again, from my perspective, for me, it's always about flow. And if I'm not in flow, I get stuck, and it's difficult for me to then recognize that there's more, or better spoken, perhaps, open to the space in which more is accessible. Because oftentimes we can get sucked into only one way of doing things, only one way of thinking. We might think that we're open to all ways, but then something happens like the last couple of weeks for me. And what does that mean, Carrie? We've had help from the sun. I've had information come through about earth changes and earthquakes and volcanoes. This isn't meant to be said to create fear, by the way. We can have little rumbles and nothing is major, no major catastrophes. But again, as above, so below, as within, so without. Crystals from inside the inner earth have been turned on or accessed or opened up or changed, morphed, whatever we want to label it as. There's been a massive shift in our ability to access through the veil beings that have passed on, beings that are what might seem far, far away are all of a sudden very close to us now. And this may have something to do with the proximity of where Earth is located in space. It may have something to do with all of the planetary alignments that are truly helping us right now. It may have something to do with the solar activity, but it also comes from the activity within the inner earth. And I keep writing about radioactivity. When I write about radioactivity, I'm not writing about it as if there's a nuclear reactor and we are being radiated, but in another way, or let's say from a multidimensional aspect, that's kind of what it feels like. We're being frazzled, yet we're then integrating these incoming, what words come through is radii. It's not like we want to be in a place of neutrality and negentropy, which is obviously not this high heat combustion, but it is. It's starfire. And I know I'm kind of going all over the place here, but this is why I haven't been doing very many videos. The energies are very quantum. Well, everything's always quantum, but the way that we're accessing them is so much less linear that to bring them into a linear perspective can be very challenging right now. There are some people that are really good at it. I, on the other hand, am finding out that that's perhaps something I'm developing, because I'm not always very good at linearizing the non-linear, but I'm doing my best. So all of these earth changes are actually supporting us, is what I'm trying to get at. If you feel guided to connect with particular places on the earth, then I'm being encouraged to do it. I've been guided to connect with Spokane Mountains in Washington. I've been guided to connect with the pyramids in Egypt, and Ireland and Jerusalem. Now, the reasons are not necessarily something that I understand as of yet, other than there's areas that are being activated within the earth that when I place my conscious attention there, or intention, where attention flows, energy goes. And so from my perspective, I'm connecting in with aspects that the earth is retrieving or bringing forward or bringing up or bringing through, and I could go on, in order to assist us on our journey, and vice versa. One of the biggest themes this week is we all hold the keys. And I'm going to tell a quick story. I had a client who came to me and isn't somebody that I necessarily, they're very intuitive. And anyways, without getting into too much personal information, this client came to me and said, Carrie, what is going on with the energies? This was yesterday. This is crazy. And I said, well, what do you mean? And she said, and I'm so grateful for her letting me use this story. I'm sure she won't mind. She said, well, I don't think they're good. And I went, well, tell me about it. So she proceeded to tell me a story. And I invite you to listen to this story as a metaphor. Because when Source, from my perspective, is speaking, or the spirit that moves in all things, as the Native Americans call it, it speaks through all things. And when I'm in a state of flow and I'm just allowing, I see synchronicities everywhere. And it does come more sometimes in waves than other times. But she said, well, I went, and I'm not getting the story 100% right, and that's okay. She said, well, I went to get into my house and I realized I had the wrong set of keys. So I couldn't find my other set of keys. I went to security and asked them, because in this particular place where she lives, there's security and they have a set of keys in security. So she went to security and they didn't have the master key. And I had to go to the other security, the head of security. He had the master key. So we went back to my house and he put the master key in the lock and it wouldn't work. By the time she was done telling me the story, she had used 2 master keys. Neither one of them worked in her house, and her set of keys, for whatever reason, wasn't working either. So the head of security said, well, did you happen to leave your door on the 2nd story unlocked? And she said, oh, yes, as a matter of fact, I did. He said, well, I'll get a ladder and climb up there and we'll let you in that way. So he proceeded to get a ladder to climb up to the second story, let her in the door, and as it turned out, the keys were in her purse the whole time. This took, I'm sure, hours. Now, when I listened to her tell me this story, I realized that Spirit was speaking, telling us a story. And I said to her, well, that's what's going on with the energies. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, we have our house. The keys that we've been using, even the master keys that we think get us into all the doors, it isn't working. Nobody else has those master keys except for us. It was in her purse the whole time. You're the one with the keys. You're the key holder, right? And I said, but you had to ask for help to get you up to the second level, in which you'd already left the door open for yourself. But this other person had to help you to figure out that you'd already left the door open for yourself. And then in the end, it took that little extra help from somebody else to actually get you to realize you had the keys the whole time. But on the flip side, had she have just spent a little more time going within, she never would have needed to go up to the second story or to go up the ladder. But sometimes we want to draw other people in so that we can experience this, to see, oh, we have the option to go up that other level. And that door up that other level is already open waiting for us because we're the ones that opened it. The reason I'm sharing this in this way, and there's so many different variations that we could take that story, right? That isn't the only variation, but that's what I heard. Now, I also saw it in many different ways. It's like sometimes it's fun to have other people help us on our adventure, to show us, hey, guess what? Just go up the ladder, or I'll help you go up the ladder to show you what you already know. But on the flip side, sometimes it's just about us being still, calming our minds, coming into that place and recognizing that we hold the keys the whole time. But I also see this as significant because what was working isn't working anymore, necessarily. And as soon as we recognize, and I don't know what the situation was with her locks, like why the master key wasn't working, so on and so forth. She had another set of keys she didn't realize. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. I'm just kind of sharing the story because it's interesting. But really, the old keys aren't working. What we thought was the only key that would work to everything is really within us. And what we thought was one thing is actually not necessarily applicable anymore. And this, in a nutshell, is my energy update. And the reason I'm so excited to share this in this way is we're getting gifts like this all of the time. I ended up talking with a dear friend and sister of mine last night, Sid. And she's been a huge part of my awakening journey, as many of my friends have, and as many of my sisters and brothers in this now, in this moment, I'm opening up to and recognizing that I have been gifted with the literally gifts of other sisters and brothers who are on a very similar journey. And this happens to be a dear childhood friend of mine, but she said, I dreamed last night that we are the keys. She was telling herself, you have the keys. And I happened to tell her about this story. And I'm like, okay, I got to share this with everybody. This is the first video I felt guided to be like, look. And it can be that simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. There's a lot of people that are going through deep complications right now because they've perhaps made some life choices. This isn't always simple, but yet it is. One of my other friends, Blanca, the other day was sharing with me a story she was reading, and she was describing the author had said, how simple it is, really, to get this information from the other side. And there are many of us that are like, it's not simple. I ask for guidance all the time and I never get it. And that's never the whole truth. I used to say that all the time. That's only part of the truth. That is true from one perspective, from the perspective of the person who is blocking themselves somehow or not allowing the flow to come through naturally, organically. We all have been there, I think, right? We might be there right now. I've been there a couple times this week for longer periods of time than I expected. And part of it was maybe you're not receiving this guidance because you're not open to a new form of it. You're attached to the old way that you used to receive it. What if that receptivity has shifted so much that you're not even aware that it's going on around you right now? And that's where I've had to keep placing myself. So I was having, and I just am amazed every time I have a conversation with one of my friends that this is what everybody is experiencing in their own way. Many are going through huge and massive upheavals, more so than they even expected or thought could be possible. I feel for myself, my massive upheaval was 4 or 5 years ago. Everything broke down, everything. And this time around, it's a massive upheaval again for me, but in a very, very different way. I've been guided to just keep reminding myself, which is why I'm sharing this with you, letting go of all fear around where this is taking me. All fear of what people might think. All fear of why. Letting go of the why has been very big for me in the last 2 weeks. Where is this leading? What's next? My dear friend, one of my dear friends is going through a lot. I have friends whose direct families, they've lost loved ones recently. They've got family members that are very sick. And that can be very challenging. I've gone through that as well. And we all have the keys to work through this and to assist one another as well on this journey. To offer sometimes, can I just help you up the ladder? You've already opened the door. Sometimes it's just pointing someone else, I'm here if you need me. And allowing the space for that other person to climb up their own ladder. Allowing the space for that other person to find their own keys. But sometimes we're just here to hold that space for ourselves and for our brothers and sisters. We don't have to push them or take the keys and try to fit something that was a square peg into a round hole. There's so much more that I have to share, but this was just a quick energy update because I thought it would be fun to share that story. Massive, from my perspective, this whole month is extremely, extremely powerful and magical and emotional as a human on this human experience. As an expansive, galactic, quantum, angelic, rainbow ray human on this journey as we all are. So I'm going to end on that note and just kind of send everybody a big energy hug. And in love and light, guys. Have fun working with your new master keys in love and light.